the next two very much go together. You have amendment number 2. And amendment number 2 and 3 are both by Representative Bacala from here in Ascension Parish. It would mandate upon final passage of a budget bill, an appropriations bill. So final passage, that's kind of not a legal term, it's sort of a term of art. So right before if the Senate and House votes voted on it, it would become law and sent to the governor. That's what we mean by final passage. So final passage also can mean something else. But so, okay, last time you're going to vote on the government, and if it passes here, then the legislature doesn't get to see it again. When that happens, you have to have 48 hours and the summary report and the amendments before the legislators can vote on it if this constitutional amendment passes. This is really harkening back to last year, not earlier this year, but last year, when at the end, members of the legislature got the bill with amendments on it from conference committee. With there were only a couple hours left in the session, and they didn't know what was going on. They had to vote for it anyway because who knows what was going to happen. There was wailing and gnashing of teeth. Particularly the rank and file legislators, including senators, were very upset with how the process was handled. So this is an attempt by Representative Bacala to be like, okay, let's fix this. So this would require at least 48 hours after amendments and a summary report have been given before legislators can vote on final passage. Not all the different steps that a bill has to go through, but that final last time. And it only applies to appropriations or budget bills, not everything else. All right, and so you can get the arguments for and against. Like, you understand why they were doing it. They want to make sure legislators understand what they're doing before they vote on something. Makes sense. On the other hand, it's like, well, you should be able to manage your own business better. Don't go for it, or make sure they get it to you sooner, or handle this through either the rules. And by the way, there is a rule already exists that says they have to have 48 hours, but it's one that can be waived, and it can be waived with only a majority vote. So maybe you do a state law or something else before you go to a constitutional amendment. Not to mention the pressure that if you have to wait 48 hours, well, now you might actually end up running even more into time, because now you need 2 days in advance before the end of session. And what if one house passes it, one doesn't? So to deal with that, you have constitutional amendment number 3, which allows the legislature to extend the regular session. So they can extend the regular session by 6 days, 2 days at a time, if they haven't passed a budget bill. So this only applies to budget bills again. So it's not like, you didn't get, some sort of, I guess a highway bill would count. But there is some other change in the law or something along those lines. This doesn't apply to it. And you can only take actions on budget bills during this extended session. So it would be 6 days, 2 days at a time, to pass additional budget bills. Similar arguments, and again, these are by both of the same author, dealing with the same issue. Is like, we don't have enough time at the end of the session. Bills are hoisted on us. We don't know what's in there. So you had 48 hours before you have to do it, but then you might run out of time. So this is sort of the, well, if you're running out of time because you can't deal with it, then we have this in our back pocket so that we can take an extra 6 days if we need to end up passing bills. So that way, if you put 2 and 3 together, you have a sort of more time to review it, and then you also have more time to actually sit down and pass bills. Same sort of arguments against it, though, is like, no, get your job done while you're there, and you should be able to manage your own business. In terms of cost, it's pluses and minuses. On the one hand, doing this, extending by 6 days, could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars because you have staff working. On the other hand, if the legislature doesn't get their job done and they don't pass a budget bill, then you got to come back in special session, which would actually be longer and therefore costly, because you'd have to start the whole process again. The bills would have to be reintroduced, and they have to go through the House and committees, and then the floor, and then the Senate committees, and then the floor, and then whatever conference. So that actually could easily take more. In fact, it would have to take more than 6 days, just the way we have 3-day requirements for each bill. So I can't tell you which one is going to cost more. There's arguments for and against both of them. While those bills are philosophically linked, they are not legally linked. You can pass number 2, which gives them a requirement of 48 hours to think about it, but not give them the extras, 6 days, and vice versa. So you could end up with something where you have the extra days, or you have the extra time requirement, but you don't have the extra leverage to try and get it done. So they'll really have to manage their time there. So one can pass without the other. They are not legally linked.
If in that scenario you outlined, if 2 passes and 3 fails, what will be the net effect difference under that scenario versus where we are today?
So, okay, so to back up, so what happens if 2 passes and 3 fails?
Yeah.
And so 2 requires 48 hours on final passage before the legislators can vote on a budget bill. And they have to have 48 hours from getting the amendments and from getting a summary document. So they got to wait 48 hours now. And this is in the Constitution. They can't get around that with a rule suspension. So they're going to be jammed up. There's 2 days they have to wait. So they'll have to be at least 2 days ahead of the end of session. And so if 3, which is the one that would give them an extra 6 days, doesn't pass, means it's completely possible you might see more sessions end without passing budget bills. And it could be more special sessions. I don't know. Or it could mean they manage their business and they start passing budget bills with at least 48 hours to go. Was there a particular scenario you had in mind?
No, but I'm wondering with that, if that is the case, would it have not seemed to have made more sense to have merged the 2 into one amendment?
Yeah, they seem definitely linked, but so I can't speak to Representative Bagala and why he wanted to break it separately. But he did want it separately. I suspect what his reasons might be, but I wouldn't want to speak for him.